Hey everyone, it's your girl Layla. Welcome back to my channel.
Every little thing you do, and every time you hold me, take me higher, higher. Ooh.
Okay guys, so I am planning to do a life update video in the near future. I'm taking today and a little bit more time to film a few videos. However, I don't know if you can tell by my voice or the way that my face is right now. It's probably all poofy. My eyes are probably poofy. I tried to hide it with makeup. I've literally been crying my eyes out for like the past 2 days. I also don't know how much I can share on YouTube for my life update. You guys don't know where I work, number one. You know a lot about my life, but you don't know about my work life. And basically some things are going on with work right now that's caused me to seek time off and likely end up going to therapy. I think that I might be doing that in the coming days because it's been affecting me and it's been affecting like a big part of my life these past few days. So I do plan to do that. You guys will get a life update really soon. If you guys are not already subscribed, please go ahead, click that subscribe button below. I upload 3 times a week, Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. So you guys, I have been planning to make this video years ago. Literally years ago, and it's taken me this long to make it. When I looked up my condition here on YouTube like 2-3 years ago when I was planning to film this video, there was only 2 other videos, other people that had the same condition as me. And so maybe this will help some of you, I hope. And I just want to give you guys my experience having thalassemia. So I was diagnosed back when I was 13, but let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to basically how I found out I was predisposed to being a thalassemia carrier and feeling the effects of thalassemia. So if you guys don't know what thalassemia is, a lot of people don't know what it is. It's basically a blood condition. It's a type of anemia. So I'll kind of like leave some screen grabs on the side here so you guys can know what I'm talking about. But basically my red blood cells are not normal. Number one, I don't have a lot of hemoglobin in my red blood cells, just like someone who has anemia. So I feel tired all the time if I don't get adequate sleep. I feel completely drained. So basically when you have anemia, you don't have a lot of hemoglobin in your red blood cells. When you have thalassemia, your red blood cells are not formed properly. They're basically deformed. They're not like a full red blood cell like everyone else. So my hemoglobin counts have always been low. It affects my mood. It affects how tired I am on a daily basis. Like I could have days where I could literally sleep a whole entire day because I don't feel good. So it really affects me when I have to do things like work night shift and not get enough sleep and all of that stuff. It really does affect my performance and how I feel. How I found out I had this. Okay, so my mom actually is a carrier. She didn't know that she was a carrier. She actually thought she had anemia the whole time. So when she gave birth to me in the 90s, we lived in a small town in British Columbia. And the small town did not have specialist doctors. It only had like one family doctor. They sent her to the city for more blood work because she kept having fainting spells. So this is actually very common if you have thalassemia. You could be more prone to fainting if your red blood cell count is low. It happened to me like at least 3 times, 3 different times that I can really remember. But she kept having these fainting spells literally after she gave birth to me, which makes sense because you do lose a lot of blood after you have a child. They sent her to the city for blood work, and again, this is a small city. This is like Vernon, BC. It's like this tiny little city. Again, no really any specialists or anything like that. We did have family doctors, lab, all of that. And she had blood work done and they diagnosed her with anemia. They were like, you know, you need to take iron pills. It's fine. A lot of women have anemia. This is very common. So she believed them. She took iron pills. She was not feeling like a whole lot better, but it did help like a little bit, I guess, enough to where she wasn't fainting as much. And when we moved to Calgary, which is the big city, and she had blood work done here, when she got a new family doctor and all of that stuff, they knew right away that she had thalassemia. So she was then finally diagnosed with thalassemia after like many years. Our doctor basically told her and me, because I was with her, I used to go with her to a lot of her doctor's appointments back then, because of course like she didn't have childcare or anything, and I obviously couldn't stay home alone, so she'd bring me along. And our doctor basically said that I was likely a carrier as well, because she had it. It gets passed on through the bloodline. And what's weird about thalassemia is it's very common in Mediterranean countries. I'm not exactly sure why, I didn't do too much research into that, but I did hear that it's more common if you have Mediterranean Baltic lineage. I don't. I am half Filipino and my mom is full Filipino, right? I also heard that it's more common in people that live near the sea or near the ocean, which does make sense because my mom is from the Philippines, so that may be why. It does get passed on throughout the generations, and my family doctor was like, maybe we'll wait until she's older, because at that point I think I was like 10 years old. And so our family doctor was like, maybe I'll wait until she's a little bit older, when she's like 13 or something like that, and then I'll do blood work and see if she also has thalassemia. So there was a lot of signs that I had thalassemia, and that I completely just ignored because I didn't think it was a huge deal. There was times when I was in school as a child and everything. I would go to school, you know, from Monday to Friday, just like everyone else. And on the weekends, I'd be so completely drained, so completely exhausted that I would sleep literally like the whole day until like 2, sometimes 3 in the afternoon, which I don't think is normal for a child to do that, but it was like that until I eventually got my first job. So when I was 13, I got my blood work taken, and of course I was diagnosed with thalassemia, and I have the complications of having anemia as well, because, you know, those two go hand in hand together. My hemoglobin count was low, my blood cells are deformed, all of that stuff. So I do have B minor. If you guys were wondering if you have thalassemia and you have like a different type of thalassemia, my mom and I have the B minor one, which means it's not like a mild form of anemia. I don't even want to put it that way, but it's more mild than the people that do have to get blood transfusions, that have to get iron infusions, all of that stuff. We don't have it particularly that bad, but there's a lot of times in my life where I question things. Like, I look back on it and I'm like, oh, that explains it. That explains it completely. Like the whole sleeping all day thing, feeling completely exhausted and drained thing. And then, like I said, I got my first job when I was 15 and I was working all the weekends. So there was no time for me to sleep in ever. I feel like I was running on autopilot. I was just trying to make it through the next day, and then whenever we would have these like professional development days at school where we would have a Friday off, I would literally sleep the whole entire day. I was just so exhausted and like chronically exhausted the whole time I was in high school that it was a blur to me, and I had a whole lot of like brain fog happening as well, which I didn't really understand at that point, but it's also an effect of having thalassemia, is you get this weird brain fog that you can't really explain. And that happened to me a lot working night shifts, I can tell you that. Like, it would just like, I wouldn't remember anything. Like, I would go to work, just like go through my day or whatever, and then I'd come home and I would be like, did I even go to work? Like, it's this weird brain fog that I know that people experience brain fog when they're pregnant or at other points in their life. I don't know when else, but I know that a lot of pregnant women experience brain fog, and it was like constant for me all throughout high school. I experienced that, and I didn't really know why. I didn't really understand, but like I said, looking back on it and all of the symptoms that I had that I just ignored, it was due to my thalassemia. Another thing is I could not keep up in gym class at all. It's like I was always struggling to get every last bit of oxygen in my body. I was not like able to run until literally years later, where I had to build myself up to that level because I literally felt like I was dying every time I was in gym class, and I didn't understand it. And I was skinny back then. Like I was literally a twig and no one understood it. They were just like, oh, you must smoke cigarettes, which I never smoked a cigarette in my whole entire life. I can wholeheartedly tell you that right now. I've never smoked in my entire life. And for my gym teacher to think that because I was unable to keep up with the rest of the class and everything, that is like really messed up. So fast forward, going into my adult life and me realizing that my thalassemia was somehow getting worse was because I had a dizzy spell while driving. I had never experienced it before. There was somebody else in the car with me, which is super scary at the same time. Like I'm sure she could have like grabbed the wheel and helped me out and everything, but she did not understand it either. And that's when I knew that I had to go to the doctor, because I would continue having these dizzy spells off and on. And like I said, I always knew that I had thalassemia, but I didn't know that it was progressively getting worse until I started getting dizzy. And when I went to see the doctor, they were telling me like my hemoglobin was really low, that I needed to take iron, but iron honestly doesn't help. It keeps you kind of stable, but it doesn't create more red blood cells. It doesn't like really stay in your body for very long. It's really hard to explain, but iron does not help. I've even been told that by my doctor. She's like, we could try an iron supplement, but it's not really going to do anything. You're gonna feel a little bit better. You're gonna feel a little bit more like less tired, but it's not gonna fix your problem because you'll always have this. So fast forward, I start working nights, and this is where I really messed up. I started working nights because I thought, you know, like it's gonna help me. I started working nights because I wanted to make more money, and nights is honestly the best money earner like you could do, because there is shift differential. You could potentially work weekend nights at my job and make $7.50 per hour more than if you were working days. So it's a big difference. It's a lot of extra money that I was like, you know what? I can do this. I can handle working nights. But my rotation was insane. It involved me working almost like a month of nights and then switching back to days. It often made me do like, you know, really long stretches where I didn't have a day off and I was working nights. And it really took a toll on me, and I didn't notice it right away. Of course I didn't notice it right away, because clearly this whole like all of my symptoms going from a child to a teenager to a working adult, I didn't really take my symptoms seriously until I really started to feel it after working nights for a while. It did take me a while. So I was struggling in the beginning. I will fully admit that. I was struggling and I was like, did I make a mistake? But it was more like a physical struggle for me to work nights, because I felt like I had that night shift belly, which I might do a video on because it's very common. I had to Google it, and eventually like my stomach got used to working nights. That was only one part of me that got used to working nights, but eventually I got blood work done because I ended up going for a checkup because the dizzy spells continued. I started to feel chronically exhausted again, and I wasn't able to sleep after my night shifts. Like I would stay up, edit, try to go to sleep, and it didn't always work. So I did go back to my doctor for more blood work. He said my hemoglobin counts were even lower. Like they were low before to begin with, but they were even lower at that point. And she was like, what are you doing different? What is your lifestyle like? Do you exercise? Blah, blah, blah. I exercise like crazy, you guys. Like I feel like I'm one of the healthiest people that I know because I work out so much. But I told her that I work nights, and she's like, that's why. That would be why. That's why your hemoglobin counts are really low. And at that point, I take iron off and on because it bothers my stomach. Like my stomach cannot handle iron for like taking it constantly for a very long period of time. Like I do have to take breaks in between taking my iron pills because it's a mess, okay? So I found out it was getting worse, and I ended up having to find work elsewhere, and so I did. I found a better job with better hours, and now I'm being forced to work nights again, basically, is what's happening to me. So like I mentioned earlier on this video, I will do a life update soon. You guys don't know where I work at all. Like I've never talked about which company I work for or anything like that, or being shady or anything like that. But basically I found out that I have to go back to working nights, even though that's not my permanent job. And I have been struggling these past few days. I have been really struggling to cope because I finally started feeling better. Like I finally got my body to a point where I was given a consistent work schedule, and I've been doing it for almost a year now. I've been almost off nights for a whole year, and I can't see myself going back to nights because the relief that I feel, like I don't feel exhausted 24/7. I feel like I'm a lot healthier now than I was even back in 2021. 2021 was a year where I was literally hiking almost every day. Not almost every day in the summer, but like I would go hiking literally 3 days out of the week. I would do these super long 20K hikes. I felt like I was in the best shape of my life, but at the same time, I felt like I was so unhealthy at the same time because I was still flip-flopping back and forth between working nights and working days, and like my schedule was a mess. And so now this is happening. That really has nothing to do with this video. I really wanted to talk about my condition and how it's affected me and what I've been doing, I guess, to help, because I know you guys are here because you want my experience as a person who has thalassemia and that has had it for a long time, well, my whole life, right? I didn't get diagnosed till I was 13, but the things I can tell you are, number one, don't work night shifts. They're really bad for your body to begin with, but when you have this underlying health condition, it's a lot worse, and you will not feel okay. You will not. And the next thing is make sure you're getting your adequate amount of rest. I am a workaholic. I can already tell you guys that I'm a workaholic. I've taken leave from work due to the stress of this whole situation, and I'm working right now. I'm filming a video for you guys. I'm about to go edit after this and, you know, upload a video today. So I'm constantly in the state of working. I am a workaholic. However, you gotta take your time and just rest if you have thalassemia. Iron helps, but it only helps to a point. Don't use it as like I need to be taking iron 24/7 to feel okay. Like it doesn't always work that way. And the last tip I have for you, which is something that my doctor told me, I will carry this gene to my kids. It's already known that I'm gonna be carrying this gene to my kids, and I have to be careful about who I have my children with, because if they are also a carrier, my child could die. My child could be negatively affected by both of us having thalassemia. It could give them a lifetime full of blood transfusions, of iron infusions, of just really bad health. So I'm pretty sure my fiance is not a carrier. I'm pretty sure he's had blood work in the past and it hasn't been something that they brought to his attention. So I think we're okay. It's just hard. It's a chronic condition that I don't really talk about. I don't like to make excuses for why I can't do certain things, and I just try to force myself to anyways. Like it's really annoying. Like a toxic trait that I have, because I feel like with nights and everything, I'm like, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And then I felt so exhausted, so drained, and I wasn't doing well based on my health. And I feel like I'm stubborn in that situation, because I just can't say no, and I can't just take a break, and I don't use my condition as an excuse for anything. But at this point in my life, I feel like I have to be selfish and I have to stand my ground, because I physically cannot do this anymore. Like I can't be forced to work nights anymore. I just can't do it at this point in time in my life. Maybe I could do it back in my late teens, my early 20s, whatever, but like right now at this point in my life, I feel like I need to take care of myself. I need to be selfish and just take care of myself. And that's what I want to tell you guys out there that have thalassemia and that are struggling as well. I get it. I do. And you gotta be selfish and take care of yourself, because no one else is gonna take care of you for you. So that is all for this video. I know it was kind of all over the place. If you guys want a life update, I will do that soon. And that is all for this one. If you guys are not already subscribed, please go ahead, click that subscribe button below. I upload 3 times a week, Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.
I let you